Okay. In the course of human history, we have undergone revolutions that have changed the way our society acts and the way we have acted as individuals. Some examples of these are like the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution. Each one of these changed the way society acted and introduced new, long-lasting philosophical ideas. However, all of these revolutions are in the past, and I would argue that the revolution we're in at the moment is the Internet revolution. It's really changing our world, it's making the world speed up, and it's actually changing long-lasting ideas about what I'm talking about today, which is the news. Now, in the 1440s, Johannes Gutenberg invented what we call the printing press. Many call this one of the most important inventions of all time, and it ushered in the era of print news, where news would be printed on paper and distributed throughout the world. This was a strong, booming industry that is lasting for almost 500 years. However, it is being threatened by the Internet. The Internet is only 20 years old, but it's already beginning to crumble this 500-year-old industry. And we ask the question, why is this happening? Well, the Internet is more adapted to how the news needs to work. It's more accessible, it's cheaper, and it's a lot quicker. As you can see, the newspaper industries are really suffering. In the last 20 years, almost every major newspaper is losing people and selling less papers. If you want to look at the Wall Street Journal, it looks like it's actually spiked. But if you read the print there, it says that that spike was when they started including people who read the Wall Street Journal online, so those are paid readers. So that almost reinforces the point that they're spiking up is because more people are going online to read the news. They're going online because it is quicker to read the news. The news is an industry that's always been based on speed, and the person who breaks the story first is the one that gets all the credit and the one that gets all the credibility. And the simple fact of the matter is, the Internet is miles quicker than a newspaper. The Internet has connected our world. It means that information can travel, from India to America in less than a second. And that means that journalists can be on the field, they can write a story, and in 2 seconds it can be on the Internet for anyone to read. Whereas for the newspaper industry, they have to write the story, they have to print the story, it has to be delivered, and it's not in the hands of the consumer until the next day. By then that's irrelevant. The Internet has made the morning paper just outdated. It's also more accessible. I'm sure almost everyone here has a personal computer. Many of you have tablets, many of you have iPhones and smartphones and Android phones, and these have given us the opportunity to have anything in the world, any information, any news beamed into the palm of our hand. And this means that we don't have to go out and search for the news like you do with a newspaper. If you want a newspaper, you have to go to a newspaper stand, you have to go to the newsagent, you have to go find the blue boxes that are settled around Penn State. Whereas here, if you have a smartphone, you take it out, suddenly you're checking it. For example, when I wake up in the morning, I have my alarm on my phone. The moment I turn the alarm off, I'm already on the Internet, I'm already reading the news, I'm already finding out what's happened in that day. And if I go and buy the newspaper, I'm getting yesterday's news. Like I said, it's somewhat irrelevant. It is also cheaper. If you go on a news website, for example, the wallstreetjournal.com, it's free. You don't have to charge. They don't charge you in any sense to enter that website. Whereas if you want the Wall Street Journal in print form, unless you have a subscription, which you're still paying for, you do have to pay for it. And when something is offered for free versus a paid service, people are always going to take the free one. You see this with the music industry. The reason people download things illegally is because it's free. People don't want to pay for a service they can have for free. So this is really where the Internet is taking advantage of that. And you can see more money is being siphoned into the Internet because people are visiting the Internet. Therefore, advertising money is being redirected from newspaper to online, and that's going to keep the whole system free. Certain newspapers, like the New York Times, have experimented with a paid service where you get a certain amount of content for free, and then you get into a paywall, so you have to pay if you want more content. But this is rare on the Internet, and we'll see that many companies are trying to keep the news free, especially as a lot of news is coming out of Twitter and Facebook, and no one is willing to pay for these services. So it looks like the newspaper industry is struggling. There are certain methods they've decided to come up with to try and combat this shift away from newspaper. First one is what was called the USA Today model. If you look at the USA Today, you'll find that a lot of it is based on colors, it's based on graphics, based on graphs, visuals, polls, short stories. They're trying to really change the news from being all text to more pictures and visuals and try and make it more interesting for people to read. We're in a much quicker world where we want everything quick in our face, want to digest it quickly, and the USA Today thinks that they can do this by offering like that graph right there. That's much easier to read. It's much easier to digest quickly if you are if you're just looking at it. And if you see these stories, a lot of them aren't longer than the page, which is what people want. They want to read the highlights, they want to read the quick news, and they want to get on with their day. Also, you'll find that a lot of newspapers are starting to post their content online. Almost every major news company has an online web page now. So a lot of the stories you'll see in the paper are being printed on or are being posted online as well. However, this doesn't really save the newspaper industry at all. It merely continues the brand, and instead of selling newspapers, they're selling their content online for free. And you'll find that many companies these days have a section for the print and a section for the web. So the web part of the newspaper companies doing is really rising up, and that's where a lot of the money's going, and the print is still suffering. And posting content online really doesn't help the print version of that company. So we see, as the Apple iPad tablet came out a couple of years ago, we're seeing Windows tablets and Google tablets coming out, and the Apple or the Amazon Kindle and the Barnes & Noble Nook are definitely becoming more common in our society. You'll see people on the train reading the iPad, reading their books on there, and the newspaper industry is really trying to cotton onto this by offering their newspaper on the iPad. And this really is a fantastic idea, I think, because it sort of cuts into some of the advantages that the internet has over the news, and the main one is accessibility. The idea is that this would be automatically downloaded for your tablet the moment you wake up. So instead of having to go to a newsagent, the paper is already on your phone or tablet when you wake up. So like I was saying earlier, when I woke up, I checked the news. Instead, I could wake up and read the newspaper. It's already there for you, so people don't have to go and search it. So that leaves us with the question, where is the newspaper industry heading? They definitely have some good ideas to try and combat this shift away. Personally, I think that the newspaper industry is still going to struggle, and that readership levels are going to decline, mostly because younger generations have not really developed a loyalty base for a newspaper. You'll find that the readership levels of newspapers are mostly older people who were around before the internet was there. So when these older loyalty newspaper readers start to die off, there isn't really a base to replace that. However, I don't think that the print industry will be dying out as per se anytime soon. I think what we see is sort of two different sections of the news emerging. Whereas the internet, you get the breaking news as it happens, you get the stories as it happens. I think you'll find that the newspaper is going to try and focus on getting the complete story for you and having better quality journalism. Which you'll find the journalists who work for the New York Times and stuff have journalist degrees. A lot of the writing on the internet is freelance or amateur, so sometimes the story isn't as complete and the facts aren't all there. So the newspaper is really going to try and focus on that and make sure that you can get your breaking news that day. It's the next morning where you find out the whole facts and you get better quality journalism in the newspaper. Thank you very much.